AITA for refusing to lend my sister money for her dream vacation, even though she claims I'm being selfish. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Anna, 29F, who I've always been close to. Growing up, we shared a lot, but in adulthood, our financial situations diverged significantly. I've been fairly frugal and careful with money because I live on my own, have student loans, and am saving for a house. Anna, on the other hand, has a history of impulse, spending, and rarely plans ahead financially. Recently, Anna called me excitedly and said she had been dreaming about taking a 2-week vacation to Europe, visiting multiple countries, staying in boutique hotels, and experiencing luxury dining. The catch was that she wanted me to lend her $5,000 to fund it. She said she would pay me back within a year, but admitted that she didn't have a concrete repayment plan beyond some months after I get a bonus at work. I was taken aback. $5,000 is a huge amount for me, and while I love my sister, I cannot risk lending money I don't have to a person with a history of poor financial decisions. I told her I wasn't comfortable lending that much, and that she should explore more affordable options or save gradually for the trip. I offered to help her find budget-friendly ways to travel, such as shorter trips, hostels, or using rewards points. Anna immediately became upset. She said I was being selfish and that I was not supporting her dreams. She reminded me of all the times she had supported me emotionally and suggested that my refusal was a betrayal of our sisterly bond. She also said I was being penny-wise and pound-foolish, claiming that a once-in-a-lifetime trip was worth the temporary financial risk. I tried to explain that my decision wasn't about withholding support emotionally, but about protecting my financial stability. I reminded her of previous times she had borrowed small amounts of money and had been late repaying or unable to repay in full. She dismissed this, saying, "This is different. I'll pay you back. I promise." After our conversation, she began sending passive-aggressive texts, implying that I don't care about family or about helping her achieve happiness. She also told mutual friends that I was refusing to help my own sister, framing it as me being selfish and controlling. Some friends suggested I just loan her the money to keep peace, while others agreed that it's reasonable to set financial boundaries. The situation escalated when Anna started suggesting that I could take out a personal loan or use credit to fund her vacation for her. I told her that taking on debt on her behalf was not an option and that lending money I couldn't afford to lose was irresponsible. She accused me of being paranoid and said that if I loved her, I would help. I also learned that she had been discussing this with our parents, framing it as me being unwilling to support her dreams. They called me and said I should reconsider because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and that helping family sometimes means going beyond comfort. I explained my concerns, and they responded that I was overthinking and that family should help each other without hesitation. I've tried to compromise by suggesting alternative ways to make her trip feasible, planning a shorter or cheaper trip, saving gradually over months, or finding creative ways to cut costs. She refuses to consider these alternatives, insisting that the only acceptable option is for me to fund the entire trip immediately. I feel conflicted because I love my sister and want her to experience joy, but I also have my own responsibilities and cannot risk my financial security. I am concerned that if I give in, it will set a precedent where she assumes I must always fund her lifestyle choices, and I will constantly be pressured to provide money I can't spare. The tension has started affecting our relationship. Our conversations are increasingly awkward, and I dread bringing up finances or future plans because she frames any refusal as personal cruelty. I also feel anxious about interacting with mutual friends and family, as I fear being painted as selfish or unkind for simply setting boundaries. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to lend my sister $5,000 for her dream vacation, even though she claims I'm being selfish and unsupportive of her goals. Character count, 6,423. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting in front of our extended family during Thanksgiving. So, a little context. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F. We've always been close, but our relationship has had its ups and downs, mostly because of differences in how we handle conflict and family dynamics. Emily has a 5-year-old daughter, Lily, who is a sweet kid, but also extremely spirited and high energy. I don't have kids, but I've spent a lot of time around Lily, and I genuinely enjoy her company. I try to be supportive of Emily, but I've noticed some things about her parenting that make me uncomfortable, and I recently made a mistake by addressing them publicly. Thanksgiving this year was in my parents' house. My parents live in a large house with a big living room that's usually used for entertaining. Emily, her husband, and Lily came over around noon, and the rest of the extended family arrived throughout the afternoon. Everything was normal at first. We chatted, helped set the table, and caught up. Lily was bouncing around, as usual, excited about all the decorations and the prospect of seeing her cousins. Here's where things started to go sideways. Emily was trying to get Lily to sit at the kids' table during lunch. Lily, naturally, did not want to sit there. She wanted to be near the adults, where she could interact with everyone. Emily was getting frustrated and raising her voice a bit, telling Lily to sit down and stop being difficult. I could see Lily's face fall and noticed her starting to fidget nervously. I also noticed that Emily was about to yell more, and I knew from past experience that once Emily starts yelling, she doesn't stop until the child either complies or bursts into tears. I hesitated because I didn't want to start a fight or embarrass my sister, but I finally said, "Emily, maybe we shouldn't force her right now. She's just excited and wants to be part of the conversation. Maybe we can figure out a compromise, so she's not being punished for wanting to socialize." Emily immediately snapped at me. "I'm her mother. I know what's best. You don't need to interfere every time you think a child is being upset." I try to respond calmly. "I know you're her mother, but it looks like she's getting really anxious. Maybe we can handle this in a way that doesn't make her feel like she's in trouble for being excited." At that point, Lily started to cry quietly, and instead of taking her aside calmly, Emily raised her voice even more. She was saying, "Sit down. This is ridiculous. You're making a scene." Everyone at the table went quiet and started looking at us. I lost my temper, probably not gracefully, and said something I can't take back. "Emily, yelling at her like that is not okay. She's 5, not a teenager. You're scaring her in front of everyone, and it's embarrassing." There was a tense pause. My mom looked shocked. My dad tried to mediate, and the cousins were whispering among themselves. Emily yelled, "You have no right to talk to me like that about my child in front of everyone." "How dare you?" I said. "I wouldn't have said anything if you hadn't been yelling. I just don't want her to feel scared at her own family dinner." She stormed off with Lily to another room, and the rest of the meal was incredibly awkward. Later, Emily texted me saying that I humiliated her in front of our entire family and that I should never comment on her parenting again. Our parents were upset too because the holiday was supposed to be about everyone being together, and instead, they were dealing with a family argument. Now I'm stuck wondering if I went too far. I genuinely thought I was helping Lily in a moment, but I also understand that Emily sees my intervention as undermining her authority as a parent. I don't want to be seen as the interfering aunt, but I also don't want a child to be scared or anxious around her own family. Since then, Emily has been cold toward me, and my parents are subtly encouraging me to apologize. I feel like apologizing for the way I handled it publicly is fair, but I also feel like staying silent is wrong because it might enable this pattern of yelling at Lily when she's just being a normal kid. So, Reddit, AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting in front of the family, even though I was trying to prevent her child from being scared and embarrassed. AITA for refusing to let my cousin's fiance stay at my house despite her being pregnant and us having extra space. I, 28F, have always prided myself on being a very accommodating and hospitable person. My partner, Mark, 30M, and I bought a 2-bedroom apartment about 2 years ago, which we completely renovated before moving in. We intentionally left one of the bedrooms unfurnished and often joked it was our guest room for family and friends who needed a place to stay. Our families are very close, and we've had people stay over multiple times in the past without issues. Last month, my cousin Sophie, 27F, got engaged to a man named Daniel, 29M. Sophie and I have always been close, but we've had our differences over the years, mostly about boundaries and respect. I love her, but she has a tendency to assume people will drop everything to accommodate her needs. So when she called me the other day and asked if she and Daniel could stay at our place for a week, I hesitated. She explained that she was in her second trimester and was starting to feel very tired from work and other wedding preparations. She said it would only be for a few days, but then when I asked for exact dates, she mentioned it would probably be about 9 days. I felt uneasy. I explained to her that while we have space, our apartment is small, and we usually like to plan for guests ahead of time. I also said that since we both work full-time, having 2 people stay with us for over a week might be challenging. Sophie insisted that it would be fine and really important that she have a comfortable place to rest. She added that Daniel couldn't stay at his parents' because they were on vacation. I tried to offer alternatives, like helping her book a nearby Airbnb or suggesting that she stay with one of her other cousins who live in the same city. Sophie became upset and accused me of being selfish and not supportive of family. She said that being pregnant meant she had special needs and that I should just make it work because we always host people. Mark was completely on my side. He reminded me that our home isn't a hotel, and we both have jobs, responsibilities, and routines that would be disrupted. We even discussed compromising by offering to have them over for a dinner or two instead of staying overnight. Sophie didn't like that and started texting me constantly, trying to guilt trip me. She said things like, "I can't believe you'd rather be selfish than help your pregnant cousin," and "You always make everything about yourself." Things came to a head last week. Sophie showed up at my door unannounced, saying she just wanted to drop by to see if we could talk. I was honest with her in person, which is rare for me because I try to avoid confrontation. I told her flatly that we could not accommodate her and Daniel for a week, and that if she showed up expecting to stay, she would need to find a hotel or another family member's place. She cried and shouted, saying I was cruel and that I didn't care about her pregnancy. It was really intense. She left after an hour, but she's since been posting passive-aggressive things on social media about me, including one post where she hinted that I refused to help a pregnant cousin in need. Some mutual friends and family have reached out, asking me if I'm sure I handled it correctly, because Sophie is painting me as the villain. Honestly, I feel justified. I love Sophie. I want to support her, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect someone to accommodate you for over a week, unplanned, simply because you're pregnant. I offered alternatives, tried to compromise, and communicated honestly, but she is still portraying me as heartless. I also think her fiancé could have helped find a solution instead of relying entirely on me. I guess part of me wonders if I'm overreacting because she is pregnant and maybe this is a time to go the extra mile for family. On the other hand, I don't think pregnancy excuses ignoring someone else's boundaries. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my cousin and her fiancé stay at our apartment despite her being pregnant and us having space. AITA for refusing to pay for my stepson's expensive hobby after his father said it's just what a dad should do. I, 35F, have been married to Mark, 38M, for 5 years. He has a son, Lucas, 12M, from a previous marriage. When we got married, we agreed on financial boundaries regarding Lucas's activities. We both contribute to essentials like school, food, and clothing, and Mark covers most extracurricular activities, though we agreed to discuss anything particularly expensive in advance. Lucas recently became obsessed with competitive robotics. He's passionate, talented, and clearly enjoys it, which is great. The problem is the cost. To compete at the level he wants, the program fees, equipment, travel expenses, and specialized kits would cost over $6,000 a year. That's significantly more than any other activity he's done, and much more than we'd budgeted for hobbies. I expressed concern to Mark, explaining that while I support Lucas's interests, I cannot personally cover such a high cost on top of our other obligations, including our mortgage, car payments, and general household expenses. Mark's response was frustrating. He told me that as Lucas's stepmom, it's just what a parent should do to support their child's passions financially. He implied that if I really cared about Lucas and wanted to maintain a positive relationship, I would cover a portion of the costs. I reminded him of our original agreement about discussing expensive activities beforehand and the fact that I'm already contributing to Lucas's needs in other ways. He said those contributions don't count because they aren't helping him achieve his dreams. I offered alternatives. I suggested fundraising, applying for robotic scholarships, Lucas doing odd jobs or chores to save up, or splitting some costs between Mark and me. Mark dismissed all of these, saying Lucas shouldn't have to wait for opportunities and that I was being unfair by not immediately paying for this program. He also started comparing me to his ex-wife, saying she would never have made Lucas wait for his passions. The tension escalated when Mark said that if I didn't contribute, he might have to cover the full cost himself, which could put a strain on our finances and potentially limit my contributions elsewhere in the household. I felt trapped. On one hand, I want Lucas to pursue his interests. On the other hand, I feel that Mark is trying to pressure me into taking financial responsibility for something we hadn't agreed I'd cover, and framing it as a moral obligation is unfair. Things got worse when I brought up concerns about setting boundaries. I told Mark that I'm happy to support Lucas emotionally, help him with homework, assist with robotics projects, and attend competitions. I even offered to help research grants or affordable alternatives. He said my efforts aren't enough because money talks in the real world and that Lucas deserves the best. Our household has become tense. Mark is frustrated and resentful toward me, and Lucas has started noticing subtle changes in our interactions. He hasn't said anything directly, but I feel guilty because I love him and want him to thrive. I also feel anxious about future conflicts. If I give in now, I worry it will establish a precedent that I must fund any expensive hobby he wants, regardless of practicality. Some friends and family have weighed in. Some say I'm unreasonable and that supporting a child's passion is part of being a family. Others say that it's fair to maintain financial boundaries, especially when the costs are significant and unexpected. I know Mark's perspective comes from wanting to help his son, but I can't shake the feeling that he's trying to guilt me into paying for something that's not my responsibility by framing it as a moral test. I've considered covering a small portion, but Mark insists that half or nothing isn't acceptable. He said that paying less would send the wrong message, and that Lucas needs to feel fully supported. I disagree with this philosophy because I think learning to work within limits is also valuable for a child's development. I worry that giving in completely will also make Lucas expect financial handouts for future passions, which I don't want to teach him. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my stepson's expensive robotics hobby after his father said it's just what a parent should do. Even though I'm contributing in other ways and offering alternative support. Character count, 6,523. AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress after she ruined hers. So, this is going to be long, and I'm not sure if I'm the asshole here or not, but here it goes. I, 28F, am getting married next summer, and the planning has been stressful, to say the least. My younger sister, Emma, 25F, has always been a little dramatic, but I've tried to overlook it because, well, she's family. Our relationship has been kind of roller coaster. We love each other, but she can be extremely competitive and petty at times. Back in January, I went dress shopping with my mom and Emma. It was the first time I actually let Emma come to a major fitting because she insisted. We looked at about 10 different dresses before I finally tried on one that made me cry happy tears. It was perfect. The second I walked out of the dressing room, Emma's face fell, and I swear I saw her scowl. She kept saying, "It's pretty, but maybe you should try something else," even though she told me she loved the dress when I first showed it to her. I brushed it off as her being indecisive and didn't think much of it. Fast forward to last month. Emma is getting married in a small ceremony this winter. She invited me to her fitting, and I noticed she had already ordered her dress. When she tried it on, she looked upset and said it wasn't what she imagined. I offered to help her find alterations or look for accessories to make it work. She brushed me off and then, during an emotional moment, blurted out, "I wish I could just wear your dress. It's exactly what I want." I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking, and said no. It's my wedding dress, and it would never fit her style anyway. Here's where it gets messy. About 2 weeks ago, she called me crying. Apparently, she spilled red wine all over her dress at a pre-wedding party, and it's ruined. She begged me to let her wear my dress for her wedding, claiming that it would make everything better, and we could both wear it if you altered yours. I told her absolutely not. She started crying hysterically on the phone and said things like, "You're so selfish. I can't believe you won't let me have the dress you've been flaunting for months." She even threatened that she wouldn't invite me to the wedding if I didn't give it to her. I didn't respond to that part, but I reiterated that the dress is not for her, and she ended the call screaming at me. The next few days were a nightmare. My parents got involved, trying to convince me to share the dress for the sake of family harmony. My mom said, "She's your sister, honey. She's your sister. You don't want her to have a meltdown, do you?" I told them I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but it's my wedding, my dress, and I don't see how giving it away after she ruined hers is fair. They kept insisting that it's just a dress, and you'll get over it, which made me feel like a villain. Emma has now started posting on social media about how her dress disaster has been tragic and hinted that I'm the reason she's upset. Some of our mutual friends have reached out, asking if I could just be nice and lend a little love, which I found extremely frustrating. I've offered to help pay for alterations, look for a replacement, and even offered a couple of rental options that could be similar to my dress, but she refuses everything. She keeps saying nothing else will compare. I feel torn. On one hand, I get that she's upset, and it sucks to ruin a wedding dress at the last minute. On the other hand, it's my dress, my wedding, and she's being very manipulative. I don't think I should have to sacrifice my dress because she didn't take care of hers. My fiancé agrees with me, saying that no one should be forced to give up something so personal. My parents are disappointed, my friends are confused, and my sister is borderline hostile toward me. I feel like I'm being gaslit into thinking I'm the villain here. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress after she ruined hers, even though she's really upset? I keep replaying the conversations in my head, trying to see if there's a middle ground, but anything I offer seems to get rejected. I want my sister to be happy, but I can't help feeling like she's trying to make this about me being selfish rather than dealing with her own mistake. I also worry that if I give in, it will set a precedent that she can manipulate me whenever she wants something. I really don't know if I'm being unreasonable, and the constant guilt trips are making me second-guess myself. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she completely ignored boundaries and past grievances. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Megan, 32F. Growing up, she was the kind of sibling who always demanded attention, and I was usually left playing second fiddle. Our parents favored her in subtle ways, which created a lot of resentment on my part, but I tried to manage it as an adult. Over the years, I've learned to set boundaries, and for the most part, we've maintained a cordial relationship, although I would never call us particularly close. The issue started about 6 months ago when Megan got engaged to Jake, 33M. Right away, she began announcing every single wedding detail on social media before even telling me in private. I found out through a public post about the engagement party, and I had to message her just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. I told her that it hurt me to always find out about these big events online rather than directly from her, but she brushed it off and said, "I thought you'd see it anyway." Then came the planning. Megan insisted on making everything perfect and seemed to think that because I am organized and good with schedules, I should take over large chunks of planning for her. She casually asked me to handle her RSVP list, organize the seating arrangements, and even liaise with the caterer, despite having no formal experience in event planning. I declined politely, saying I wasn't comfortable taking on so much responsibility, especially since I have a demanding job and personal commitments. She didn't take no for an answer and kept guilt-tripping me, saying things like, "I guess you don't care about my big day, and I thought we were close." I tried to compromise. I offered to help in smaller ways, like attending dress fittings or helping choose invitations. But even those offers were met with passive-aggressive complaints like, "Oh, I guess you're too busy to care about this," or, "Well, I didn't realize I had to beg for help from my own sister." The more I tried to set boundaries without disappearing completely, the more she criticized me. Things escalated when Megan started asking for money. She and Jay claimed that their budget was tight, and she directly asked me to contribute a significant amount to cover part of the catering. I was shocked because we've never had a financial dynamic like that. I've always helped in small, voluntary ways if I could, but I cannot afford to give thousands of dollars for a wedding. I told her I was happy to help with smaller, manageable things, but could not contribute financially in that way. She reacted like I had personally attacked her and accused me of being selfish, saying that she was counting on me as family. I reminded her that family support doesn't mean unlimited financial support, but it felt like nothing I said mattered. The final straw came last month. Megan asked me to host a pre-wedding event at my apartment because her apartment was too small. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment, which barely accommodates my friends and me, let alone a crowd of 20 people with catering and decorations. I politely declined and suggested alternative venues that would be more comfortable and appropriate. Her response was to cry to our mother and then send me a long text accusing me of being the reason her wedding is falling apart. She said I had ruined her chance to have a perfect celebration. It implied that if I didn't step up, it would be obvious to everyone that I didn't care about her happiness. At this point, I decided I had had enough. I told Megan that I would not be participating in any planning or financial contributions beyond attending the wedding. I made it clear that my support is emotional and that I would be there on the day to celebrate, but I will not be dragged into tasks or expenses I am uncomfortable with. Megan lost it. She accused me of being the worst sister ever and claimed I was selfish and unsupportive. She also told family members that I refused to help, which has caused some tension during family gatherings. Some friends have told me that I might be overreacting, but honestly, I feel like I've tried to be supportive within reasonable limits. I have always attended family events, sent thoughtful gifts, and maintained a relationship with Megan, but I refuse to be guilt-tripped into overextending myself financially or emotionally. I am worried that my refusal will create a permanent rift, but I also can't keep compromising my own well-being to meet her unrealistic expectations. I haven't spoken to Megan since the text exchange, and I feel guilty about potentially damaging our relationship, but I also feel like I'm standing up for myself. My parents are upset and think I should just help her, but I don't know if that would solve anything. I'm hoping that setting clear boundaries will help, but I'm also prepared for backlash. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she completely ignored boundaries and past grievances. Character count, 6,374 if you want. I can draft another version that's even more dramatic and emotionally intense, similar to the posts that go viral on Reddit, with extra family conflict and social fallout, while still staying under 7,000 characters. It would read like a story people can't stop commenting on. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though everyone else is invited. I, 28F, am getting married next year to my fiancé, Dan, 30M, and we are deep into the planning stages. Our wedding is set to be a mid-sized outdoor ceremony with a lot of thought put into it. We made a very conscious decision to have an adult-focused wedding, mainly because of the venue and the type of celebration we want. We specifically told our families early on that it would be an adults-only event. Most of our guests have been fine with it, and I honestly thought it wouldn't be an issue. Here's where things get messy. My younger sister, Emma, 24F, has 2 kids, aged 3 and 5. She's generally a great sister, and we are close, but she's always been a little overbearing and dramatic when she doesn't get her way. When I told her about the adults-only rule, she was visibly upset but didn't argue at the time. I assumed she would accept it. However, last week she called me out of the blue, crying and saying she couldn't come without her children and that I was being unfair. She said it wasn't just a wedding to her. It was a family event, and excluding her kids made her feel like I didn't care about her life. I tried to explain why we made this decision. The venue has steep stairs and small walkways, so it isn't safe for little ones, and we're planning some adult activities that wouldn't be appropriate for children. We also wanted our wedding to be a break for our friends and family to socialize without worrying about childcare, which I thought was reasonable. I told her repeatedly that it's not personal and that we love her and the kids, but I cannot allow children at the wedding. Emma then escalated things. She posted on her social media a long post about how I was excluding her family and prioritizing strangers over my own blood. She tagged some of our mutual friends and family, and it quickly became a discussion point in our circles. Several relatives messaged me privately saying they felt I was being rude or too rigid, and a few hinted that I should just let her kids come to avoid drama. Dan and I are now dealing with an almost daily stream of calls and messages from people trying to convince me to change my mind. Even my parents, who initially supported us, have started suggesting maybe we should make an exception to keep the peace. They think that having Emma's kids at the wedding is better than creating tension within the family. I understand their point, but I also feel strongly about sticking to our boundaries. We are already paying a lot for the wedding, and I don't want to stress about potential accidents or having to entertain 2 toddlers throughout the entire ceremony. The breaking point came yesterday. Emma sent me a message saying she had booked a flight and hotel anyway and planned to bring her kids. She said that if I really loved her, I'd let them come. She also said that if I refused, she might not attend at all and that I'd be choosing the wedding over my sister and her children. I am torn. Part of me feels guilty because she is my sister and I don't want to hurt her, but another part of me feels that this is my wedding and that we have every right to set rules that make the event comfortable for us and the majority of our guests. Dan fully supports me and agrees that we cannot bend on this, but the family pressure is real and it's causing me a lot of stress. To make matters worse, my cousin's wife, who I consider very close, told me yesterday that she thinks I'm being petty and that it's not a big deal to let the kids come. This has made me start questioning myself, even though I logically know that our wedding planning is a legitimate reason for the adults-only rule. I have tried to offer alternatives. I suggested that Emma could have a celebration with the kids at her home, or that we could spend a weekend together with them before or after the wedding. She says it's not the same, and I understand that. I'm also worried that if I allow them, other people might ask for exceptions too, which could create chaos. I've tried explaining all of this calmly to Emma, but she keeps saying I'm choosing strangers over family, and that a wedding isn't about rules, it's about love and family. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for wanting a wedding that reflects what Dan and I envisioned. I want to honor our families, but I also need to honor our own boundaries and safety concerns. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though everyone else is invited. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé handle our family Christmas because he wants to do something different this year. I, 30F, have a younger sister, Rachel, 27F, who has been dating Jake, 29M, for about 3 years. Our family has a long-standing tradition of hosting Christmas at my parents' house, which is large enough to accommodate everyone, and every year we all contribute in small ways, bringing side dishes, helping decorate, coordinating games, etc. My parents usually set the tone, but it's a collaborative effort, and we've always valued keeping the tradition familiar and low stress. This year, Rachel and Jake announced that they wanted to take over Christmas. They said they had ideas for a themed holiday, including elaborate decorations, a full catered dinner, professional-grade lighting displays in the yard, and even a planned talent show for all family members. At first, I thought they were joking, but they were serious. I expressed concern, explaining that our family enjoys a more casual, low-key holiday, and that the planning is usually collaborative so everyone can contribute. Jake insisted that he wanted control this year because he has ideas that will make this Christmas unforgettable, and that it will be fun to shake things up a bit. I told him that I wasn't comfortable with someone outside the family, particularly someone who isn't officially part of it yet, taking full control of the holiday. Jake became defensive and said I was holding everyone back and that he and Rachel wanted to modernize the tradition. I offered to let them handle a portion of the event, like coordinating desserts or organizing one activity, but they insisted they wanted the entire event to reflect their vision. When I voiced my concerns to my parents, they were supportive of me maintaining boundaries. They said that Christmas should be enjoyable for everyone, and that traditions help keep the family connected. They also noted that letting Jake take over completely might alienate other family members who are used to contributing in their usual ways. Rachel became upset when I wouldn't acquiesce. She said that I was being rigid and controlling, and that I didn't want anyone to try new things. Jake added that I was scared of change, and that if I didn't let them lead, the holiday would be boring and stale. I explained that my issue wasn't with trying new things in general, but with someone essentially sidelining the established family dynamic and imposing their own vision on everyone. The situation escalated when Jake and Rachel began messaging other family members to rally support, framing me as resistant to fun and selfish. Some cousins suggested I should just let them try their ideas for once, while others agreed that it's reasonable to maintain traditions that everyone enjoys. The tension started spilling into family group chats, with Jake sending long posts about how the family should embrace change and that Christmas is about making memories, not controlling how it's done. I've tried to compromise by suggesting small changes that incorporate their ideas, like a themed dessert table, a holiday playlist curated by them, or adding a single special activity. But they rejected all partial solutions, insisting that half measures won't make the impact they want. I feel frustrated because I want to include them and make them feel welcome, but I also want to protect the family traditions that everyone looks forward to each year. My parents also reminded me that boundaries are important and that it's okay to say no if a plan would disrupt the event for others. However, Rachel and Jake argue that I'm being unfair and inflexible. They've even suggested that if I don't give in, they might not attend at all, which makes me feel guilty. I don't want anyone to feel excluded, but I also don't want to compromise the atmosphere that makes this holiday meaningful for the whole family. Some extended family members have started weighing in with advice, which adds to the pressure. Some say I should just let them try to avoid conflict, while others say it's right to maintain traditions and prevent one couple from dictating the event. I'm trying to navigate this without damaging my relationship with Rachel, but the conflict is causing tension in conversations and group chats, and I worry it will escalate further. I feel torn because I want to support Rachel and Jake and make them feel included, but I also have to consider the comfort and happiness of everyone else. I don't think it's unreasonable to set boundaries, but the emotional pressure and guilt tripping from them is making me question if I'm being too strict. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé handle our family Christmas this year, even though he says he wants to do something different, and I'm being controlling for not letting him. Character count, 6,602. Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to let my younger sister use my wedding dress after she tried to manipulate me into giving it to her for her own wedding. I, 32F, have always been close with my younger sister, Emma, 27F. Growing up, we were inseparable, and even as adults we maintained that bond, despite our very different personalities. Emma is the type who thrives on attention and often exaggerates things to make her life seem more dramatic or glamorous than it actually is. I tend to be more level-headed and practical. Over the years, her behavior has sometimes rubbed me the wrong way, but I always try to be supportive. Last year, I got married to my now husband, Matt, 34M. We had a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family, and the wedding was everything I had dreamed of. I spent months searching for my wedding dress, finally finding the perfect one. It was a classic, elegant gown with delicate lace detailing, and I loved every inch of it. Fast forward to a few months ago, Emma announced that she was engaged to her boyfriend, Ryan, 28M. Naturally, she wanted to talk about wedding plans, and at first I was excited for her. But almost immediately, she started making comments about my wedding dress. She'd say things like, "You have to let me wear it. It's perfect for me," or "It would be such a waste to let it sit in the closet when I could have it for my big day." I brushed it off at first, thinking she was joking. Then things escalated. She started showing me photos of dresses she was considering and comparing them to mine, insisting that none of them were as unique or stunning as my gown. She even went so far as to tell me that it would make me the best sister ever if I let her wear it. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that, explaining that my dress was very personal and tied to my own wedding memories. She got upset and accused me of being selfish, claiming I was keeping her from having a dream wedding. The breaking point came last week when she visited me and tried to sweet-talk me in person. She told me that she had already imagined herself walking down the aisle in my dress and said, "You don't even wear it anymore. It's basically collecting dust. Why can't you just make your sister happy?" I told her again, firmly, that the dress was not for her and I wasn't going to let her wear it. Emma reacted very poorly. She started crying and said I was ruining our relationship, that I didn't care about her feelings, and that I was being ridiculous. She then went on to suggest that I was being petty because I had spent too much time making my wedding special, and now I was refusing to share that happiness. I tried to remain calm and reiterated that the dress held sentimental value and that giving it to her would feel wrong to me. Since then, our relationship has become tense. Emma has stopped talking to me, and she's been posting passive-aggressive messages on social media about selfish siblings and family drama. Our parents are caught in the middle, and while they understand my side, they've also expressed disappointment that the sisters aren't able to come to a compromise. I suggested we could help her find a similar dress or even pay for a custom dress so she could have her dream gown, but she refused, insisting that nothing could replace mine. I feel guilty because I hate that my sister is upset and that our relationship is strained, but at the same time, I genuinely cannot imagine giving her my wedding dress. It's not just a piece of clothing, it's tied to one of the happiest days of my life, and I worked really hard to make my wedding what I wanted it to be. I also feel that her approach was manipulative. She wasn't asking for advice or sharing excitement about her wedding. She was pressuring me to hand over something very personal. I've talked to some friends about this, and while most of them agree that I'm not obligated to give her the dress, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I'm being harsh or unsupportive. After all, she is my sister, and I do want her wedding to be special. But at the same time, I feel like giving in would set a precedent where she can manipulate me whenever she wants something. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister wear my wedding dress, even though it's upsetting her. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house, and now everyone is saying I'm being unreasonable. I, 28F, live in a medium-sized city in a 2-bedroom apartment that I share with my boyfriend, Mark, 30M. My sister, Hannah, 26F, recently got engaged to a guy named Kevin, 27M, and things have been a little tense ever since they started planning their wedding. To give some context, Hannah and I have always had a complicated relationship. We were really close growing up, but after high school, we drifted apart. She's always been a bit controlling, and while I try to stay out of her business, she has a habit of bringing drama into my life at the worst possible times. So, the story starts about 3 months ago. Hannah called me out of the blue one Friday morning, sounding frantic. She said that Kevin had gotten into a fight with his parents. They kicked him out of their place temporarily, and she wanted to know if he could stay with me for a few days while they sorted things out. At first, I was sympathetic. I could understand that someone might need a safe place if they were in a sudden conflict with family. But I hesitated because my apartment is small, I work from home, and we both have a very structured routine. I tried to explain this to Hannah, saying, "Look, I get it. Kevin needs a place, but our apartment is tiny, and we both work from home. I don't think it's going to work to have someone stay here right now." She insisted that it would only be for a couple of nights, and that I was being dramatic. I still said no. She got upset, and I ended up hanging up because the conversation started to feel manipulative. A week later, Hannah called again, this time with a longer speech about how she and Kevin were struggling and that I was family, so it was my responsibility to help. She said that Kevin didn't have anywhere else to go and that she would make it up to me. I tried to hold my ground, explaining again that I had work commitments and that it wasn't about not wanting to help. It was about timing and logistics. She got visibly upset and said, "I can't believe you're choosing work over family." I didn't respond and just said I'd think about it, which was technically true. I was thinking about how stressed it would make my life. After this, things became more tense. Hannah and Kevin started making plans that assumed I would say yes. They talked about staying for a week, how they'd split chores, how they'd adjust to the space, all without asking me again. When I pointed this out to Hannah, she said I was overreacting and being too picky. I started to get frustrated because it felt like they were expecting me to drop everything for them without even respecting my boundaries. Fast forward to last weekend, Hannah and Kevin were supposed to visit the city for a wedding. They arrived and immediately started hinting that they were planning to stay with me, even though I had clearly said no multiple times. Kevin casually mentioned how he would sleep on the couch and that he'd be out most of the day. I told him directly, "I'm sorry, but you can't stay here. I'm not comfortable with it." He seemed annoyed but said nothing at the time. Hannah, however, went on a long monologue about how I was being selfish and that she didn't expect this from family. She even brought up old grievances between us, saying that I had never been supportive in the past, and implied that by not letting Kevin stay, I was damaging our relationship. I got upset because it felt manipulative and unfair. I told her, "I'm setting boundaries. You're welcome to visit the city, but you need to book a hotel. This is not negotiable." The argument escalated. Kevin eventually chimed in, saying that I was making things unnecessarily hard and that he didn't understand why I couldn't help someone in need. At this point, Mark intervened and reminded them that our home is a private space and that we have a right to decide who stays here. Despite this, Hannah and Kevin left visibly upset and started texting me and Mark nonstop that night, trying to guilt us into reconsidering. The next day, they sent a group text to our family explaining that I refused to help in a time of need and that they felt unwelcome. Some of my relatives called me, asking why I wouldn't let Kevin stay, and one even said, "You should try to be a better sister." I explained my side, emphasizing the apartment size, work obligations, and that this was about personal boundaries, not rejecting Kevin as a person. Most of my relatives were supportive, but a few seemed annoyed that I wasn't more accommodating. Now, the tension is through the roof. Hannah keeps bringing up the topic whenever we talk, and Kevin has started making snide remarks on social media about family that doesn't help family. Mark and I are feeling stressed and upset, and I'm starting to doubt myself because a few people have told me I was being unreasonable. I truly think that letting someone stay here for multiple days in a small apartment while we work and live our normal lives is a huge imposition. But part of me wonders if I'm overreacting and being cold. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my apartment? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her boyfriend to my wedding after years of drama? So, I, 32F, have been planning my wedding for about a year now. My fiancé, Tom, 34M, and I finally set a date for next summer. Everything was going smoothly until I ran into a huge issue with my sister, Sarah, 30F. Sarah and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was extremely competitive with me. She'd constantly try to outdo me in academics, social life, and even with family events. I learned to mostly avoid conflict, but this competitiveness has carried into adulthood. In recent years, it's become more subtle, but there's still a lingering tension. A few years ago, Sarah started dating this guy, Mark, 31M. At first, everyone liked him, and he seemed normal enough. But over time, it became obvious that he had some controlling tendencies, particularly towards Sarah. He would make snide comments about my life whenever we were in a group setting, would try to manipulate conversations to make himself look good, and seemed to enjoy subtly undermining me. Initially, I tried to brush it off as harmless, but after repeated incidents, it started affecting family gatherings. Now, here's where the wedding issue comes in. Sarah has been invited to my wedding, of course. I want my family there, and despite everything, I still care about her. But the thought of Mark being there makes me extremely uncomfortable. I have voiced my concerns to my parents, who are split. My mom thinks I should let her come with whoever she wants, while my dad leans toward respecting my wishes as the bride. Last week, I had a heart-to-heart with Sarah. I explained that I don't feel comfortable having Mark at the wedding because of how he's behaved toward me over the years. I emphasized that this is my special day, and I want it to be a safe and happy environment for me and Tom. Sarah immediately went into full meltdown mode. She accused me of controlling her life and trying to ruin her relationship. She threatened to not come at all if Mark isn't invited. I tried to compromise. I offered that she could come, but Mark would have to stay home. I even suggested some family counseling or mediation so we could at least discuss boundaries and potentially find a solution, but she refused outright. She told me that if I force her to leave him behind, she would cut me out of her life. Now, my parents are freaking out. My mom keeps saying I'm being unreasonable and should just let love prevail, while my dad has kind of backed me, saying that it's my wedding and my rules. Tom supports me fully, and he's willing to help enforce any decision I make, including keeping Mark away if necessary. The wedding is 6 months away, and I'm feeling extremely stressed. I don't want to alienate my sister, but I also don't want to compromise my own happiness or feel unsafe in my own wedding space. My friends are mostly supportive, telling me that I have every right to set boundaries for my own event, but I feel guilty and wonder if I'm overreacting. It's not just about discomfort. Mark has made several pointed comments in the past that were meant to embarrass me or make me look bad in front of family. One time, he loudly criticized my career choice at my cousin's graduation party, saying I settled for mediocrity, while Sarah beamed like it was a compliment. Another time, he tried to publicly shame me about my relationship with Tom, questioning why he was good enough for me. These incidents weren't one-offs, they're consistent behavior. I also worry about how this will affect family dynamics. My extended family knows about some of Mark's behavior, but they mostly avoid saying anything to him. I don't want to put anyone in an awkward position during the wedding, but I also don't want to spend the whole day anxious about him making snide remarks or causing a scene. Since the conversation, Sarah has stopped talking to me directly. She's texting my mom, trying to get her to convince me to be reasonable. My mom has been sending me messages about how I need to forgive and accept Mark for Sarah's sake. I feel cornered and guilty, but I also know that bending to this pressure would only invite more of the same issues at future family events. Tom keeps reminding me that this day is about us, and that our happiness shouldn't be compromised to avoid conflict. But I can't shake the guilt about possibly losing my sister. I genuinely hope we can mend this eventually, but right now, it feels like an impossible situation. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her boyfriend to my wedding after years of drama. Character count, 6,271 if you want. I can also write an even longer, more dramatic version close to 7,000 characters with extra family interactions and the build-up tension leading to the confrontation, which would make it feel like the most viral AITA post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my cousin stay at my house for 6 weeks because she says I'm family and should help, even though she has no job or place to go. I, 31F, have a cousin, Samantha, 28F, who has had a turbulent few years. She's bounced between short-term rentals, friends' couches, and living with various family members. Lately, she's been claiming that she's between jobs and needs a break, and reached out to me asking if she could stay at my apartment for 6 weeks while she figures out her next step. My apartment is a small 2-bedroom, I live alone, and I work from home. Hosting her for even a week would be stressful, but 6 weeks feels overwhelming and intrusive. I told Samantha that I couldn't host her for that long because I need my space to work, sleep, and live without disruption. I also pointed out that I can help her in other ways, like helping search for affordable rentals, assisting with resumes, or connecting her with job opportunities. She immediately got defensive and said I was being selfish and cold, and that I was turning my back on family when she needs me most. Samantha explained that she doesn't have anyone else to turn to, and she was expecting me to open my home because I'm family and family helps each other. I repeated that I was happy to help in other ways, but that having her stay in my apartment for 6 weeks was not something I could accommodate. She accused me of valuing comfort over family and said I was letting her down when she needed me the most. My partner, Eli, 33M, supports my decision. He said that having Samantha stay would upend our routines, make working from home nearly impossible, and put undue stress on our relationship. He suggested offering practical help that doesn't involve hosting her long-term. Samantha, however, insists that this isn't enough, saying that talking and helping online won't solve her problems, and that she needs a safe place to live while she gets her life together. The conflict escalated when she began messaging my parents and other relatives, framing me as unwelcoming and unsupportive. Some relatives called me, suggesting that I should just let her stay because she's family. Others said that setting boundaries is reasonable, especially given her history of overstaying and creating tension in other family members' homes. Samantha has also started pressuring me emotionally, sending messages like, "I guess some people care more about their apartment than family," or "I thought you were different from everyone else who kicked me out or ignored me." I feel guilty because I love her and want to support her, but I also know from experience that hosting her for 6 weeks would be chaotic. She has a pattern of overstaying, leaving messes, borrowing things without permission, and disregarding house rules. I've tried to compromise. I offer to pay for a few nights in a budget Airbnb, help her move into temporary housing, or assist with moving logistics. She refused all of these options, claiming they were insufficient and that family is supposed to help, not make it complicated. She also said that if I don't let her stay, she may have nowhere to go, implying that it's my responsibility to solve her problem. Adding to the tension, Samantha frequently posts on social media about being homeless and abandoned by family, clearly hinting at me without naming me. I feel anxious about my reputation among extended family, and I worry that if I give in, it will set a precedent where she or other relatives assume I must always accommodate her lifestyle choices, regardless of my own needs and limits. I've also tried explaining to her that helping doesn't always mean providing a place to live. I've offered emotional support, help with applications, and suggested temporary solutions that don't disrupt my household. She frames all of these as not caring or being selfish. Even small boundaries, like limiting visits to a few hours or having her stay for a weekend, are dismissed as inadequate. The ongoing pressure has made interaction stressful. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, trying to balance family loyalty with personal boundaries. I also feel conflicted because I don't want to be cruel or unsupportive, but I can't sacrifice my home and well-being for an indefinite period. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my cousin stay at my house for 6 weeks, even though she says I'm family and should help, and that I'm being selfish for not accommodating her. Character count, 6,634. AITA for refusing to let my fiancé's sister stay with us indefinitely after she suddenly lost her job and apartment. I, 29F, have been with my fiancé, Alex, 31M, for about 4 years. We've lived together for 2 years in a small but cozy apartment. Our relationship is great, and we usually communicate really well. Alex has a younger sister, Jessica, 25F, who I'll admit I've always had a complicated relationship with. She's sweet in some ways, but also very entitled, and has a tendency to expect people to accommodate her without question. A few months ago, Jessica called Alex in tears, saying she had lost her job and, as a result, her apartment. She claimed she had nowhere to go and asked if she could stay with us until she gets back on her feet. At first, Alex was sympathetic, and I agreed to let her stay for a week while she figured things out. I thought that was reasonable. The first week was fine, though I noticed she was leaving her things all over the apartment, using our food, and rarely contributing to household chores. I tried to set boundaries early on, asking her to clean up after herself and to let us know when she was using things in the fridge, but she brushed it off, saying she was stressed and overwhelmed. By the end of the first week, it became clear she wasn't planning to leave anytime soon. When I gently asked her about her plans, she said she wasn't sure, but she probably needed at least a few more months to figure things out. I felt uncomfortable, but didn't want to make Alex upset by insisting she leave. Alex, however, seemed torn between supporting his sister and acknowledging that our apartment isn't a long-term solution for her. Things escalated when Jessica started making more demands. She said she needed her own bedroom and began asking us to rearrange furniture and buy her a new mattress. She also borrowed money from Alex multiple times, claiming she would pay it back as soon as she got a new job, but she didn't make any effort to look for work. When I suggested she start applying to jobs, she got defensive and said, "It's hard to focus when I'm living out of a suitcase in someone else's home." I finally reached my breaking point a few weeks later. Our apartment is small, and sharing it with someone indefinitely has started to affect my mental health. I barely have privacy. Our grocery bills have skyrocketed, and I feel like I'm constantly tiptoeing around her needs while she shows little appreciation. I told Alex that I couldn't continue having Jessica live here without a clear plan for her departure. I suggested she look for short-term housing or stay with a friend temporarily. Alex confronted Jessica, and that's when she really lost it. She accused me of being selfish, saying I don't understand family, and that I was trying to control Alex. She even implied that if she left, Alex would resent me for forcing his sister out. Alex felt guilty, but eventually told her that she needed to find a place within a month. Jessica was furious, yelling at both of us and claiming we were abandoning family in a time of need. She left in a huff, but has been texting Alex almost daily, guilt-tripping him about how she has nowhere to stay and how I am controlling his life. Since then, our relationship has been strained. Alex is upset because he feels caught between his sister and me. I feel frustrated because I'm trying to balance compassion for someone who is genuinely struggling with the need to protect my own home and mental health. I've suggested he offer emotional support, but not let her live with us indefinitely. But he's struggling to enforce that boundary without hurting her feelings. I keep replaying the situation in my head, wondering if I'm being unreasonable. I understand she's in a tough spot, but I feel like she's taking advantage of our generosity. I also think it's unfair for Alex to put me in a position where I have to tolerate someone living with us indefinitely when it's clearly affecting my well-being. Some friends say I'm doing the right thing by setting boundaries, but others have suggested that I'm being too rigid and that family should come first, especially during crises. I don't want to come across as heartless, but I also don't want to feel trapped in my own home. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my fiancé's sister stay with us indefinitely after she lost her job and apartment, even though she's claiming she has nowhere else to go. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she made me choose between my mental health and being in her bridal party. I, 28F, have always been close with my family, but things have gotten tense over the past year, especially with my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Emily is getting married next month, and when she asked me to be one of her bridesmaids, I was initially excited. I have always loved weddings, and being part of my sister's big moment seemed natural. However, Emily has a very particular vision of her wedding, and she tends to be controlling in ways that make me uncomfortable. To give some context, I have struggled with severe anxiety and depression for several years. I have therapy and a medication regimen that helps me function, but big social events can be triggering. Large crowds, public attention, and high-pressure social obligations can leave me feeling completely drained for days. Emily knows this. She's seen me have panic attacks at family gatherings before and has often been supportive, but something seems to have changed since her engagement. When Emily formally asked me to be in her bridal party, I explained that I was happy to help, but that I might not be able to participate in all the traditional events due to my mental health. I told her I could attend the wedding day itself, but might need to skip the bachelorette party, dress fittings, or other pre-wedding festivities. She seemed frustrated but said it was fine, so I thought things were settled. 2 months ago, she called me out of the blue and told me she expected full participation from all her bridesmaids in every single event. She said it wasn't fair to the other bridesmaids if I wasn't fully committed, and that the wedding could be ruined if I didn't show up at all the pre-wedding activities. I tried to reason with her, explaining that my anxiety could make certain events unbearable, but she doubled down. She said that if I couldn't commit to everything, I shouldn't be a bridesmaid at all. She even suggested that maybe I was selfish for prioritizing my mental health over her wedding. I was devastated. I wanted to support her, but I also knew that attending everything would likely lead to a severe anxiety episode, possibly requiring hospitalization. I tried suggesting alternatives. I could help with planning, attend the wedding day, and even help set up or decorate beforehand, but she rejected every compromise. She said it wasn't enough and that the experience of having me fully involved mattered to her more than any practical help. After weeks of back and forth, I finally told her I couldn't be a bridesmaid. I explained that I loved her and wanted her wedding to be perfect, but I also needed to protect my mental health. I offered to attend as a guest and help in any other way she might find useful, but she told me not to come at all if I wasn't in the bridal party. She claimed my attendance would bring down the vibe and that I was choosing myself over her happiness. Now the situation has escalated. My parents and Emily's fiance's family are pressuring me to attend, saying I'm being dramatic and that my anxiety shouldn't control my actions. Emily hasn't spoken to me directly in weeks, but has posted multiple subtle messages on social media about family obligations and letting loved ones down. Some of my friends have told me I should try harder for my sister, while others have told me she's being unreasonable. I'm torn because I love my sister, but I also feel like her demands are unfair and dismissive of my legitimate mental health issues. I've considered attending anyway, but I know that being forced into situations I can't handle could make me worse for months afterward. I also worry that if I cave now, it sets a precedent that my needs don't matter in our relationship. I want to support her wedding and celebrate her happiness, but I also feel like she's prioritizing her vision over my well-being. I've tried compromise after compromise, but she refuses anything short of complete compliance. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she insisted I choose between my mental health and being in her bridal party. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding over a seating chart dispute. This is going to be long, but I need to get it all out. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Lila, 29F, who is getting married next month. I've always been close with her, but our relationship has had its ups and downs, especially since I became a mom 3 years ago. My husband and I have a daughter, Emma, who is now 2. Lila and her fiancé, Jake, are having a relatively small wedding, about 80 guests, so the seating chart has been a nightmare for everyone. Lila asked me months ago if I would help with the seating chart because I am good at organizing events. I said yes, even though I knew it would be stressful because I love my sister and I wanted her wedding to be perfect. Over the past few weeks, I've been spending hours trying to balance family dynamics, friend groups, and people who are known to fight when seated together. It's been exhausting, but I thought I could manage. The problem started when Lila told me she wanted to seat her childhood best friends, who are all in their late 20s, at the same table as my daughter's godmother, Rachel, 35F. I didn't think it would be an issue at first, but Rachel has a history of being extremely rude and judgmental toward children she doesn't know well. She has openly criticized Emma in the past for everything from her diapering choices to how loud she cries. Lila seemed oblivious to this, and I tried to warn her, saying, Rachel might make things awkward for everyone, especially with the kids at the table. Lila just shrugged and said, she'll be fine. Emma's usually pretty quiet anyway. I tried to reason with her again, explaining that Rachel has already insulted other kids at family events and that seating her at a table with children could lead to some awkward or hurtful moments. Lila rolled her eyes and said I was overreacting. I finally said, look, I don't want Emma to have a miserable day because someone is acting judgmental. I can't control Rachel, but I can control where she sits. She got defensive, saying that she didn't want to micromanage adults at her own wedding. I reluctantly accepted her decision, but a few days later, I was reviewing the table layout again and realized that the people she wanted at that table were also her most talkative, opinionated friends. I could already foresee arguments and tension. I offered a compromise. I would seat Rachel at a nearby table with some of my adult friends who could politely manage her if she started making rude comments. Lila refused and insisted that she wanted the table exactly as she had originally planned. The night before the wedding, I was finishing up some last-minute seating adjustments when I noticed that one table still had an obvious conflict, Rachel and Emma. I couldn't handle the thought of my daughter being subjected to a day of passive-aggressive comments. In a moment of panic, I went rogue and moved Rachel to a different table, placing her with some of Lila's colleagues she hardly knew. I left a note for Lila explaining that I had made the change to avoid potential drama and that I only wanted everyone to enjoy the day. When Lila saw the seating chart in the morning, she was livid. She called me and yelled for 20 minutes, saying I had no right to make decisions for her wedding. She accused me of undermining her authority and said that I had embarrassed her in front of her fiancé. Jake tried to calm both of us down, but it didn't help. Lila's friends were also upset because they had been looking forward to sitting together, and a few of them texted me angrily asking why I had changed the chart without asking. During the ceremony, the tension was palpable. Rachel seemed confused but surprisingly polite, though I could tell she was slightly annoyed at being moved. Emma was happy and ran around with other kids, which made me feel like I had done the right thing. However, Lila barely spoke to me all day. At the reception, she refused to let me help with anything and avoided me for most of the evening. After the wedding, Lila sent me a long text saying that she couldn't believe I had taken control of her wedding and that she felt disrespected. She said that I had ruined what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of her life. I replied that I only made the change because I wanted to protect Emma from potential humiliation and that I wasn't trying to disrespect her. She hasn't spoken to me since, and our mom says that she's too upset to even see me. My husband thinks I did the right thing, saying that Lila was being unreasonable and that my daughter's well-being should have been a priority. My parents are split. Mom thinks I overstepped, and Dad thinks I was just trying to prevent drama. I honestly don't know if I was wrong. I didn't want to ruin my sister's wedding, but I couldn't just let my daughter be at a table where she would almost certainly be mocked. I also feel like Lila should have listened when I tried to explain the potential problem. Now the entire family is tense, and I feel guilty that my relationship with Lila might be permanently damaged. So Reddit, AITA for changing the seating chart at my sister's wedding to protect my daughter. Character count, 6,347. AITA for refusing to buy my brother a luxury car because he claims I owe him after he helped me move. I, 33F, have a younger brother, Ethan, 30M. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, he was a bit entitled, but we were close enough that we helped each other out when needed. A few months ago, I asked him to help me move into my new apartment. He agreed, spent an entire weekend helping me lift furniture, organize boxes, and even fix some things around the place. I was very grateful and offered to pay him for his time, but he refused, saying it was just family. I thanked him profusely and assumed that was the end of it. A week later, Ethan called me saying he had his eye on a brand new luxury car, around $70,000, and that I should buy it for him. I was completely taken aback. He said, "You owe me for all the work I did helping you move." That's what family does. I told him that I appreciated his help, but that buying a $70,000 car was completely unreasonable and that helping me move was never intended as a transaction that would require me to spend tens of thousands of dollars. Ethan argued that it was unfair for me to enjoy my new apartment and be financially stable while he sacrificed his weekend to help me. He claimed that family obligations mean I should do something significant in return. I reminded him that helping someone move is generally understood as a favor, not a contract for luxury gifts, and that he didn't even want monetary compensation when I offered. He said that was just a formality and that I should now honor the debt by getting him the car. I tried to explain that I have responsibilities too, mortgage, bills, savings, and other financial commitments, and that spending $70,000 on a car is not something I could justify, especially since I didn't ask for his help. Ethan's response was that family always looks out for each other, and that I was being selfish and ungrateful. He also suggested that I was being petty because I wouldn't spend money to repay a family favor in full. The situation escalated when Ethan began messaging our parents and other relatives, framing me as uncaring and refusing to honor family obligations. Some relatives called to tell me I should at least consider helping him out because he did a lot for me, while others agreed that expecting a $70,000 gift for helping someone move is ridiculous. I also offered compromises. I suggested taking him out to dinner, treating him to a smaller gift, or helping him save toward a car he can afford. He dismissed these ideas, saying that they weren't equivalent and that only the luxury car would suffice. He even implied that if I didn't buy the car, our relationship might suffer and I would be cut off from family support. I've been trying to stay calm, but this has started to affect my stress levels and my relationship with my parents. I feel guilty because I don't want to seem ungrateful or unkind, but I also feel pressured into something financially irresponsible. I worry that giving him would set a dangerous precedent where he or other family members assume I must fund extravagant desires in the future. Ethan also keeps bringing up the weekend he spent helping me as proof that I owe him big time. I've explained multiple times that I value the help and that I show my gratitude, but he insists that true gratitude is buying someone what they want. He has even hinted that he might refuse to help me in the future unless I comply. Our parents are somewhat divided. My mom thinks I should at least consider contributing toward a car in some way, while my dad said I was right to set limits and that Ethan's demand is unreasonable. Some of our mutual friends have chimed in online with mixed opinions. Some say I should give in to maintain family harmony. Others say I am completely justified in saying no. I want to maintain a good relationship with Ethan and avoid unnecessary family conflict, but I cannot justify spending that kind of money on a car, especially when he frames it as a debt for a favor he voluntarily provided. I also feel like he's manipulating the situation by equating gratitude with expensive gifts, which makes me uncomfortable. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to buy my brother a $70,000 luxury car because he claims I owe him after he helped me move, even though I offered other forms of gratitude and support. Character count, 6,521. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.